I'm recording Monday right after recording Saturday. If you listen to the end of Saturday, you heard me I blew my voice out doing Brewer. I can't get down into Brewer range right now, so I will muddle through. I'll do the Emmys tomorrow. Late night shows. YouTube personality Logan Paul called out Jimmy Kimmel this week for referring to Logan Paul and Donald Trump as the very worst people in the world during a recent broadcast. Kimmel apologized on a show to Jake Paul, who affectionately referred to him as JK. Jimmy said, "Oh, come on now. Had I known you finally called me JK, I would never have said any of that stuff. I'm sorry, LP. I hope we can be bros again, dude. I really do, and I'm really sorry about your testicle. I forgot about that. You know what? To make up for it, I'm going to give you one of my testicles. Or wait a minute, I just thought of something. Maybe I'll introduce you to Nicki Minaj's cousin's friend. This guy, he's got more testicle than he knows what to do with." Switching topics, Jimmy Fallon. SpaceX made history when it launched the first all-Taurus crew into orbit. Sadly, one of them forgot to tell Verizon he's traveling, so he's up there now like, damn it, I've been roaming this whole time. Kimmel, this is the first orbital mission in the history of spaceflight staffed entirely by non-professionals. No one on board is an astronaut. None of them have any training. One of them is a geologist, so if there's an emergency, they'll at least know what kind of rock they're going to crash into. Ouch, Kimmel. These are the 4 winners of the golden ticket. They include a billionaire, a cancer survivor, a geologist, and a raffle winner. All they're missing is the professor and Marianne Colbert. Houston, we have a problem, but I have no idea what the problem is. Since I own a chain of laundromats, I already cleaned the lint trap. I'm going to try putting in more quarters. Kimmel, imagine that. Going on a rocket, no one on board is qualified to fly. It's like if Spirit Airlines went to space. Kimmel, by the way, if you're not real astronauts, I feel like you shouldn't get to pose like the crew from Apollo 13, but you have to love humans. We just launched 4 civilians in orbit on a recreational space flight, and we're still more interested in uncovering the mystery of Nicki Minaj's cousin's friend's balls. From thehill.com, Ricky Gervais writes comic book to protest bullfighting. Yeah. Comedian Ricky Gervais has joined other celebrities in a comic book campaign that aims to tackle both the climate and biodiversity crisis. Ricky teamed up with artist Rob Steen to create the comic Bullfight to protest the act of bullfighting and the treatment of bulls. Ricky Gervais told The Guardian, "A beautiful animal literally tortured to death as entertainment. Psychotic. F anyone who enjoys or defends it." Sidebar story. So I was in San Sebastian, Spain, had a couple sangrias, talking to some British soccer coaches. Trust me, it makes sense. And it's, 2 in the morning, and one of the British soccer coaches is like, "I'm doing a bull run in the morning." And I'm like, "I'm in." And then I found out. So maybe I'm just a stupid American from Queens. I thought when you do the running of the bulls, we run down the street and the bull chases us and, then the bull gets back on the truck and goes back to bull land and they feed him. No, apparently, and I didn't know this, at the end of a running of the bulls, they kill the bull. Like after everybody runs, then like everybody takes turns. I forget now again. Did I mention it was 2 in the morning and I had a couple sangrias? But apparently at the end of bull running, we like all whip the bull and kill the bull, and I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to run down the street like an idiot. I did not take part in the bull running, and I have crossed that off my bucket list. No bull running for me. I'm with Ricky Gervais. Leave the bulls alone. From the laugh button, for years, the idea has been thrown around that Eddie Murphy would join Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito for a sequel to the 80s comedy Twins. The sequel would be called Triplets. The premise: it would follow the unlikely sibling pairing of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, and they would find out they had a third brother. Third brother would have been played by Eddie Murphy. I'm sure you get what the joke is. Well, the project's still alive and it's going forward, but no Eddie Murphy. Tracy Morgan will play the third brother. Ivan Reitman will direct, and he told Deadline, Twins was quite successful, and some years later, this whole thing started with Arnold meeting Eddie Murphy. The suggestion came from one of them. It was, I should be a triplet. That could be a very funny comedy. We started a script with Eddie, and after the success he had with Amazon Prime on Coming to America, he got himself booked up heavily, and we knew we were going to make it at the beginning of next year. I'd been good friends with Tracy Morgan for a long time, and always thought he was one of the funniest men in the world. I thought it would make a terrific triplet, and we rewrote the whole script for him. Now we'll go out and try to put the money together and get it made. I'm curious how old these people are. I understand what acting is. Arnold Schwarzenegger is 74. Danny DeVito is 76. Tracy Morgan is 52. I also am 52. I hope I don't pass for the brother of somebody who's 76. It's a comedy. There's makeup. I get it. It's a joke, but age difference, no? Ivan Reitman even shared the film's plot. You ready for this? I'm eye-rolling this. Secretly, there was a third baby born, a black baby, who hasn't been in touch with his siblings. Really? That's the plot of Triplets starring Tracy Morgan, Schwarzenegger, and DeVito? Yeah? No way. They don't know each other. And very early in the movie, they meet, and it's how they achieve a bond together after all these years. It's really a film about family, and no matter how different we all are, or if our two brothers are in real life are 22 years older than us, we have to learn to get along. These guys have great chemistry together, and you can see that in the reel, and how much energy they bring out in each other. I don't know about this one. From the national news, Russell Peters also talked about age. Age may have given him fresh perspectives and new material, but he says his close-to-the-bone style of comedy is not changing ever. Russell Peters says, "It hasn't affected my comedy. I'm writing more from the perspective of being an older guy now. I'm 51. You are so young. But all the cultural stuff that people like, it's still there. After 32 years of stand-up, if a movie or TV show comes along, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm not really bothered. Stand-up is what pays the bills. That's what makes me happy and the audience happy." He says he does his material as it goes along. "I don't sit down and write. That's never been my style. I go up on stage with zero material, and that's how it all comes together. That's how I wrote this entire act. What you're seeing is a culmination of literally coming out of nowhere to where we're at now." Sam Morrill's documentary is out. This from the Laugh Button. You know, I've told you about this probably 3 times. Not yelling at you, I'm yelling at me. I know I've told you, but it's out now. This is the doc that is about what it was like in New York as comedy clubs were beginning to open again. Ray Romano, Colin, Quinn, Dave Attell, Bobby Kelly, Chris Redd, Sam J, Joe List, Mark Norman, Rachel Feinstein, Taylor Tomlinson, Ronnie Chieng, Rosebud, Baker, Ari Shaffir, and more. It's on Sam's YouTube channel. Check that out. From the AV Club, Norm Macdonald didn't subvert expectations so that crowds could see the red light behind him, warning the comedian on stage that their time was almost up. Nor did he deliver jokes that were so intentionally stupid, dull, or offensive that they only appeared to the back of the room. He told jokes and got laughs with his matter-of-fact delivery and stunning vocabulary that was as disarming as it was gut-busting. He could tell one-liners no problem, but the real gold was his long walks. The way he'd set up a joke made it difficult to even get to the punchline because Norm decorated his work with detailed characters, situations, and atmosphere that were enough to leave audiences, or in many cases, late-night hosts gasping for air. I'll jump in. Take a listen to the episode Conan O'Brien dropped of his podcast on Friday. Not that Conan needs promotional help from me, but if you don't normally listen to Conan, treat yourself. He told some stories along the lines of what the AV Club is getting into here. It was a great episode. But when Norm Macdonald finally made his way through the Shaggy Dog story and got around to dropping the punchline, it never disappointed. Whether it escalated or deflated the joke, Norm's work never dissatisfied. You could call him the anti-comics comic if that weren't so stupid. Norm also spoke about doing Weekend Update in 2018. He told New York Times Magazine, "We were doing experimental stuff, non sequiturs. Don Ohlmeyer, the NBC suit, would watch Jay Leno kill every night for 15 minutes. Every joke, huge laughs, and then I'd do 10 minutes a week and sometimes not get laughs." Adding, "You can't hear laughter through a TV screen." Special episode of Daily Comedy News today. No John Mulaney gossip, no Jim Breuer stuff. I got Jon Stewart for you from The Hollywood Reporter. He said to his own kids, The Daily Show was a circus. Like there was a tension that surrounded their father, but not in a way they could find tangible. Every now and then they'd come to the show and I'd be doing some beautifully prepared essay on the hypocrisy of Fox Business or whatever it was, and I'd look over at them and they'd be dancing. But they actually came to the first few shows for this new Apple TV show. I didn't know what they'd think. My son Nate's mindset had always been like, why don't you do a show like Ellen? Then we can meet cool people. That's so funny. So I was really, really delighted that they both walked away and were like, that was really interesting. Can we come to all these? Like they expressed an interest for what it was, not just being a circus. The Hollywood Reporter was like, "Hey, Jon Stewart, your Daily Show follow-up was supposed to be a topical animation project for HBO. What happened?" Stewart said the whole thing was predicated on the real-time animation thing. I think I got a little mad scientist-y with it. I didn't crack it. The technology wasn't quite there yet, but it's one of those things where I had this idea and it really lit me up. I was so excited, and then I remember looking at it and being like, oh yeah, in animation, they don't look you in the eye. How am I going to fix that? And in topical humor, there's a turnaround time of like 6 hours, and animation is the most considered process in the world. I'm basically walking in a Picasso's office going, "Hey man, you mind painting me something real quick? My niece is coming in an hour." They asked, nobody along the way is telling you it's likely implausible? Jon, I think people were feeling excited by the challenge. I mean, generally, people love to crack a code and you sweep them up in your enthusiasm and your vision. And when you're not able to deliver, you not just feel you disappoint them, but like you're effing up their lives. It was really hard to let go, but it reached a point where we were like, okay, who has the job of taking Old Yeller out behind the barn? They asked Jon, by not having a show on the air, you managed to miss the reign of Trump. I rewatched the Daily Show episode where he announced his candidacy, which was just before you signed off, and you were positively giddy. You called Trump a comedic gift from heaven. Jon said, what I missed there was his certainty, his ridiculousness, his shamelessness is what made him dangerous. I thought it made him a buffoon, and I thought that was what would disqualify him. What it did is made him the perfect vessel. You have to be shameless to do shameful things. I'm not saying he's the same as these figures, but the most dangerous figures are the ones that seem comic and absurd. Saddam Hussein seems absurd. Muammar Gaddafi would stand at a caftan and rant like a madman. Speaking of Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi, I love Lucie. No, that's just an awkward segue. This has nothing to do with mad terrorists. This is a sitcom. Lucie Arnaz, not a terrorist. I just want to be clear. The daughter of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz says that she attempted to have certain scenes filmed for the Aaron Sorkin drama Being the Ricardos removed due to their inaccuracy. Lucie Arnaz says, I mean, there are certain scenes that I wish hadn't been in the feature film. I couldn't get my way and have them taken out, but they weren't accurate. I thought, that shouldn't be in there because that never happened. That's not true. And it's not just theatrical license. It just wasn't true. We don't know too much about the movie, but it stars Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem, and it's expected to follow Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz as they grapple with an issue that threatens their careers and marriage over the course of a week during the production of I Love Lucy. Sounds pretty cool. Lucie Arnaz says to her knowledge, Being the Ricardos takes place primarily during rehearsals for I Love Lucy, including a few scenes at Ball Arnaz's house in Chatsworth, as well as before and after working. There are also supposedly 2 or 3 short flashback scenes to her life before I Love Lucy, where she worked on the radio show when she was trying to convince the network to hire Dad. But tucked within that, Arnaz says, is stuff that happens within that week that didn't happen the way Aaron has written it. He's taken some theatrical license and sort of cramming a couple of true events that did happen. They just didn't all happen at the same time. That said, Sorkin treated my mother and father really well. I think they are accurate composites of these people. And what I've seen of it, I haven't seen any of the rushes, but I was on the set for just 2 days. What I saw was extraordinarily classy and first rate. The people that he has cast are just really great performers. And can I interest you in some curbside comedy? What's that? Well, curbside comedy is a safe, affordable way to bring professional, funny people to your backyard barbecue. Yeah, professional comedian Trevor Glassman will come to wherever you are and bring laughter. Barbecues, birthdays, Fridays, Tuesdays, who cares what day it is? Heck, we'll play Atlantis. We'll go anywhere. Performing solely for tips and donating part of the proceeds to charity, comedians get to work in safe, open-air spaces, bringing smiles at a time when the whole world could use them. You could even hire them to work at your cul-de-sac block party, and they would love that. Curbside comedy talent Michael Oldroy says, this has been a tough time for everybody. People need laughter more than ever. Before shows, after shows, people tell me they need this. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your shows. Buymeacoffee.com/Daily Comedy News. Instagram @Daily Comedy News. See you tomorrow.